In the brief history of combat jiu-jitsu, we've already been treated to incredible submissions, overtime classics and upsets, and impactful striking stoppages. Now, 2020 has arrived, and Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds hopes to lead the combat sports world into the new decade with the most real, the most exciting, and as Eddie Bravo and Master Victor Davila say, the most gangster form of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on the planet. On Sunday, March 8th, the Featherweights take center stage as the CJJ mat hits the beautiful Orpheum Theater in downtown Los Angeles. At CJJ Fight Night, we saw the rise of a new star. Showcasing his vicious, relentless palm striking skills, Richard Red Alarcon finished the night with his hand raised, securing his spot in the Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds Bantamweight Tournament.
Tell us about how you feel about solidifying your status in that.
I'm feeling pretty good right now. Everyone else at that tournament better watch out. Red's coming.
Here we go. Richard Alarcon victorious tonight.
Alarcon went head-to-head with top CJJ contenders like Sheridan Moran, Nick Honstein, and Pablo Alfonso. He also managed to outlast the vicious Chewy Urbina in an overtime classic for the ages. In Irvine, California, Alarcon prepares with his camp as they look to continue their dominance in the world of combat jiu-jitsu.
My name is Richard Alarcon. I'm a black belt here at One Jiu-Jitsu. Last year I competed at the CJJ Bantamweights. Man, it was tough. There's some quality competitors there, you know what I mean? It was no, walk in the park. Starting with the first match, I mean, that guy was one of the favorites, and I had him first round, which is usually my luck, but I went out there, I got it done. Guy was a tough grappler, he was really good wrestler, had really good takedowns. Ended up edging him out.
He's thinking about a Darce maybe right here.
I started showing him the hands and opened him up, but I ended up finding a way to win.
Hard left hands there by Alarcon.
Obviously I always rely on my athleticism. I'm not always the strongest, but I usually rely on my speed, my agility, my endurance. I usually outcondition all my opponents, so that's what I relied on. And you start seeing the change in the tide. Obviously this final match, it's like, dude, I don't care what happens, I'm getting it done. I'm not losing this match. Went out there ready to rock and roll. Stay composed. Obviously the majority of the people there were 10 Planet, and they got their boy up there in the finals, so it was obviously a hectic crowd, but I stayed calm, I focused on my match, and I went out there and man.
Just gorgeous passing. He's just stringing his takedowns together with his passing, together with his striking, together with his guard passing, his back takes. Alarcon.
Chewy's a hell of a scrambler, He had some really good defensive moves, got out a lot of my stuff. He was a little bit of a body type, a different kind, because everyone else, a little bit longer, not as compact, so it was a little bit harder to secure things on him. But I still, dominated positioning, and then we ended up going to overtime, controlled him pretty much the whole entire match. I know I frustrated him with that first armbar slip. I think I got out in like a half a second or something. I know he was pretty frustrated. I held him, I was trying to get the sub on the back, but I just couldn't get underneath his chin, so I held him. And then we went into the final round, and I kind of felt him kind of break a little bit mentally after getting out the second time with his armbar. I know he was catching everybody on the arm bars, you know what I mean? So that third escape, I was good to go, I knew I had it. I took to Jiva really quick. You know, we were very similar in our mindsets and, you know, our missions, you know what I mean? And I linked up with him since the get, you know what I mean? I really relied on his guidance, especially on the mat. Listened to everything he had to say. You know, he had me put in the work, and I wasn't, you know, trying to get away from that. I knew I had to put in the work, and whatever he told me, I did. So, you know, it's always good when you have a soldier that listens. You know what I mean? If you have a good general, honorable general, it's very easy to follow him. So, you know, I'm blessed with that, especially with Jiva. So, for me, you know, I just listened to the instruction, especially from him, my pops. You know, they're like the best two for me, you know, as far as guidance. So, I've always stuck to that, and I've just, you know, went out and did what they wanted me to.
Yeah, we've been coming here, I believe, for about 7 years now. When he just had gotten out of the Citadel University, he came from Charleston, South Carolina, doing his wrestling, and we met Jiva over at Timoyama, and here we are with him to this day. Oh, he's looking strong. He's ready to go. He stays ready. This is kind of his forte, you know. Combat grappling is a gift that he received, I believe, from the Lord. That's what he's good at. So, you know, I think that this next fight is really going to show off his talent. Oh yeah, the kid's been tough ever since day one. So I knew we'd either get him into something positive or he'd find a negative. So that's how we're still in it to this day. I'd say that some people are good at MMA and some people are good at Jiu Jitsu, and for my son, he's kind of like right in between. Like, let's say MMA was an unlimited round, we probably would have stayed in MMA. But unfortunately, every 5 minutes they get a fresh restart. And so, you know, like here we are in the combat grappling where it's just consistent all the way through, and his skill set's shining.
First started, I went into jiu-jitsu when I was really young. 7, I did that for a couple years, and then, you know, we just transitioned to wrestling at that point. But like since the get, you know, he's always been my #1 fan, always been there to push me, make sure I put, you know, the most work in. He's the one that kind of built my work ethic. So, you know, we always try to outwork everyone, no matter what, you know what I mean? No matter what the result, as long as you outwork everyone, you ain't got nothing to be ashamed of. So we always make sure we put in the work. He's always supported me, you know what I mean? Even through my ups and downs, I have some, you know, some bad moments, and he's always there to pick up all the pieces, you know what I mean? On the long car rides home, you know, the losses, everything, he's always been there for me, and, you know, I'm so blessed for that. Relying on your jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean? There's a lot of people that do all these funky things, you know, they go for like the cool stuff, you know what I mean? The stuff that everybody's trying to do, everybody's trying to learn, but the stuff that really works is the basics. There's a reason why the basics have carried on for so long, you know what I mean? That's my game plan. I just stick to the basics, and it's worked out really well for me, and you see it even with combat. The basics always work. So that's what I've always relied on, you know what I mean? Like I said, you know, everyone's trying to learn all the coolest thing, the new move, but they're forgetting the basics. Gotta go back to the basics. That's how it's always been in every sport. Demian Maia, for an example, he was dominating the whole division and didn't even really throw a punch, you know what I mean? So it's just like, when you rely on, you know, learning how to counter the strikes and everything, and relying on, you know, making your movements count, that's when those basic moves work. You're shutting down, that's the whole essence of jiu-jitsu. You're supposed to, you know, limit your striking. You know, if you're on the streets, you're supposed to limit that up. Man, to be honest, open guard's the best. Open guard's always good because you have your 4 limbs in front of you, you know what I mean? That restarts everything. You know what I mean? So you're a fresh start, you get to, you know, redo your game plan, or no matter what the position, you could restart back to fresh. So I'd say open guard's really good because that's where the majority of the position is, especially in whether it be no-gi or combat, you know what I mean? Majority of the time it's open guard. You know, anytime you see someone trying to go for a heel hook from bottom and someone standing above them, you know what I mean? That's pretty dangerous, especially if they get past those feet. If they get past those feet, you're catching a lot of punches. Knee bars are probably one of the best ones just because they create that distance, you know what I mean? You might get body shotted a couple of times, but I mean, it's not really doing too much damage, you know what I mean? You're still separating yourself from the opponent and their hands. So the knee bar is a really good one, I think. Heel hook is a good one as long as you're on the ground. I feel like that creates a good amount of space as well. But I mean, if you're standing and you're trying to go for a heel hook on someone who's standing above you, you're gonna catch a good amount of, you know, punches or slaps or whatever it's gonna be, so, you know what I mean?
almost gets the back taken.
Alfonso
There it
induces
is.
the scramble and does get his back taken for his efforts.
Just no space in the game here against Alarcon.
I'd say out of all the positions, if you get, someone's, mounted on top of you, and there's strikes, you're going to take some damage. Obviously, if you have your back turned, you can at least cover up a decent amount. If you're playing guard, you can still block with your hands. Open guard, you have your four limbs, but mount, you're relying on all that force coming down in your face, with your hands. You're going to eat a good amount of them. MMA, you're taking a lot more damage, a lot more pain to the joints. You're taking knees, kicks, elbows. There's a whole nother element to it. That's a lot of weapons. A lot of people get cut. They end up with concussions, all kinds of stuff. Combat, there's a limited amount of, cuts or concussions or anything that you hear about. So I'd say that's about the safest, and, it teaches you like some real life stuff out there. You throw a guard out there on the streets, someone's gonna come with some punches, at least you know how to block. It's the same simulation, same movement, so at least you're learning how to defend yourself on the streets. So I feel like that should definitely be an element that people add to their training and learning.
Posture up, bring him down. Yes, sir. Give him some more of that.
Oh man, just look at my past film, my past footage. I'm gonna bring in the action. Obviously I'm gonna be the little guy out there, but I'm looking to bring that pace, and I'm still gonna be bringing these hands. So hope everyone's training for it. I know I am. I'm busting my butt out here. I'm gonna be bringing that cardio on these hands, and I'm gonna be creating some nice scrambles out there. So it's gonna be a fun one. But we'll see what happens.
My name is Jordan Holly. I'm a black belt representing Rodrigo Cabral in the Brazilian Fight Factory. Also my own gym, the Holy Grail Jiu Jitsu. Some of my accomplishments include a veteran of Shugyo Invitational, the Third Coast Grappling 145-pound champion, multiple time Submission Hunter champion, Texas promotion, the Jacksonville Invitational 155 champion, and I've competed as Zapatero, finishers, pretty much any sub-only invitational that you could name. Strikes do change the nature of the game. I think that everything has to be kind of related to top position. You have to be very cognizant of strikes on the ground. Hanging out in half guard for a long time I think would be a negative thing from what I've seen. A lot of guys like to rest there and throw strikes. If you watch the UFC, you see a lot of guys hanging out and pinning their opponent in half guard, not really trying to pass, but just throwing strikes. I also think a bad position would be, I think what they're referring to is purgatory, which is where they're standing over the opponent throwing strikes. I think that that's definitely a negative position for the bottom person. So I think whatever you do, you can figure out how to use it to your own advantage. And we've seen several styles already play out in combat jiu-jitsu, but for sure, top's got the advantage. As far as attacking and defending leg locks whenever strikes are allowed, I think that it can definitely be effective. I think initially when people thought about that, they thought that leg locks were just a no-go, but we've seen guys like Dan Martinez, we've seen guys like Bobby Emmons hop in and pull aggressively and attack leg locks. I think that for sure when you try to strike out of leg locks instead of getting out technically with a guy that knows how to do leg locks, you put yourself into real danger to get into a worse position or get heel hooked or tap yourself. So I think that that your defense needs to be key and on point before you start deciding to throw strikes. If you don't understand the positions, then you probably shouldn't go there. But I don't believe that you should abandon your entire game just because strikes are allowed. Initially, when I heard about combat jiu-jitsu, I wasn't all that intrigued in the idea. But as I saw it kind of play out, it was definitely spectator friendly. And I think initially I would have rather done pure jiu-jitsu, and this will be the first time I've done combat jiu-jitsu. but I'm excited to go out there and compete for it. I think it'll be fun, and I think it's a good thing for the sport. I think the worst guards for CJJ are going to be the guards where they allow your opponent to have a good posture, like the reverse Delihiva, the Delihiva. Those are going to allow them to kind of stay up and throw hard strikes, whereas you don't have as much control. I think the better guards are going to be the ones like a really tight plate Z guard, maybe a butterfly guard where you're working your off balances a lot, things that you can readily come up and attack. Because I see a lot of these guys playing reverse Delihiva or Delihiva, you don't have a lot of control, especially over their upper body, and they're going to be able to posture up and use the gravity and their height advantage to throw strikes. Pure BJJ guys should definitely focus on the top game. They should focus on their wrestling, defensively, offensively. That's the thing that a lot of jiu-jitsu guys don't focus on. They pull guard a lot, and sometimes they pull guard, they don't know how to sweep and come up, so that could be a problem. I think pure wrestlers need to focus more on definitely passing the guard and working on their bottom game, because you never know where it's going to go. You could get a guy that scrambles up and put you on your back, and then you're in a bad position. You don't know how to play your guard very well. So I think that everybody that's invited to a tournament like this is going to be able to play both sides of the coin, and it'll come down to that. So. Open palm strikes change the game. I think it's a great addition. I think it can be fun in a very versatile style to train. It can definitely help up-and-coming MMA fighters, and it can help you to be very aware of what's going on the ground. A lot of times we get used to being in positions that may allow us to get struck more and more. And I forget the quote, but someone said that, you hit a black belt and it becomes a brown, you hit him again, it becomes a purple. And it's very true that we started training it, and you see guys that have really good guards that are hard to pass, and when you introduce the striking aspect, it starts to shell them up, and they start to be a lot easier to deal with. So it's exciting, and it's something that I'm ready to do. For CJJ as a sport to grow, we just need more people to tune in. I think that it's tough because you got to get blood work, and you have to get a lot of things done that you wouldn't normally have to do at a grappling tournament. It's more in line with MMA. So I think that more states getting behind it and understanding it will start to expand it as a sport, and more guys willing to go out there and test themselves in that style will definitely expand CJJ. I train every day, multiple times a day, coach my students, lift and do cardio on the other days, and my whole life's put into it. I think that everything that's led me up to this point has been by God's sovereignty, and every little step in my path has put me closer and closer to my goals. It's just another step in the way, and God willing, March 8th, I'll be the CJJ Featherweight Champion. I'm very grateful to be able to compete at Combat Jiu Jitsu Worlds. Very excited. It's always been a dream of mine to be on EBI and to compete for everybody out there in California. I'm really stoked, so really excited to get out there. At the CJJ Featherweight, you can expect me to keep going forward to attack, whether it be with palm strikes, whether it be with passing the guard, attacking leg locks. I only have one style, that's just to push the pace. I like to break my opponents, and I like to get in the mix. I don't like to play the rules very much, and you're gonna see domination from me.
My name is Demian Balderrama. I've been training for 7 years, and I train at Atus HQ here in San Diego.
Normal fight. Demian. Fight com Alex, go.
I used to do like catch wrestling before. That consisted also of like fighting MMA. After a while, those classes were unavailable, and then Jiu-Jitsu was brought into the initial school where I was at. It was called Entrim. After a while, my head coach back then came to Atus, and then he told me, hey, this is a very good academy. I think you should come by. I came by, and I just loved the place and decided to cross-train for a while until I decided to finally move over here. When Professor Galvao gave me the option of coming over here, he would help me with a place to stay, and then eventually just came here as a young boy, a lot of dreams, and yeah, just fulfilling them for now. To be fair, I've always like have that fighter instinct even since I'm like young or even practice any sport. But the moment I really decided to do this is when I had a very good results in Nogi Worlds. I lost the finals by 1 point, and I've been close to the goal of like a Worlds before. But that moment, I fought very strategically. I fought very good. You know, the technique was sharp, strength, everything like was like in place. And I noticed that like if I just kept on grinding, I could be one of the very best and eventually like be a world champion. And I say, hey, it's time to just stick to it. And that's what happened. I wouldn't say I'm on a roll per se. I mean, like, I'm human nonetheless. Like, for sure I'll have my downs, my ups. But I mean, I've been able to win Gi Worlds, Gi Pans, Nogi Worlds. And I've always said I like to fight Nogi more, although I train Gi the most. But going into combat BJJ, for me, is like pretty much the same thing. It's like, it's a fight. Of course, there's like a couple things that need to like take a place in your mind that is like, oh, I have to be aware of this. But that's the reality of a fight. There's a lot going on, a lot you gotta address, and it's just another test, another assignment, and I'm just going there to see whatever I can do and give it my best shot.
So, try my best because I passed through all that too. You know, I had people that helped me.
Yeah.
So now I'm here. So I know that when you believe someone and you put it like, you put your work right there, and if they get the opportunity, they know what to do with the opportunity they get, they can succeed, you know, just like I did.
Well, it was Professor Gaval, so that's why I had so much like push and something to drive me forward, because the fact of like someone that I look up to gave me those words of like, hey, I need you to come here. If your family is willing, like I'll have you a place to stay, and we'll make sure you do the work to become a world champion. You know, it was not certainty, but the same year he told me that, I went over there. This was during like December, so when the next year started, that's the year I became world champion. So I had no guarantees, but that was the moment that let me know if he believes in me, that means I have to believe in myself, and that allowed me to just shoot for the stars and hopefully like reach one. I definitely will have my aggressive game on. Like I said, I've just been recently promoted brown belt, but for me that's no disadvantage. I think it's the other way around. This is a very good test for me to see how I am in the big leagues, and I'm just gonna throw my best out there, you know? Be aggressive from start to finish, and have my best tactical game on as well. It's about style, about also about like the person, the individual, because it's not about maliciousness. It's simply like some people have more killer instinct than others. Some people fight very systematically. Some other people prefer to be more instinctive, right? So if they feel it's right, they'll go for it right away. But if some other people are like, no, I cannot do this because then I'll leave the space and then the guy will move and stuff like that, then they'll feel it's like a system, and then they'll only get caught in the system. That's what I feel like. I feel my way of fighting is instinctive, so if I see there's an opportunity for a slap, I might like just throw it in there, you know? Every good fighter has to know that you cannot fight a fight the same way you fought another. You gotta always change the game according to who you're fighting, right? You'll never know the full game of the guy, because you cannot spend your whole lifetime just studying on people. 145, I mean, the light featherweight divisions, like they're always packed. I think as much as lightweight, which is like the 170, there's a lot of talent. So to be able to come on top and then bring it back to your academy, it's like very big accomplishment. And I believe like it's, even if it is me or not, or whoever does, like for sure he's like a big acolyte.
I really wasn't thinking about doing combat jiu-jitsu ever, and then I saw my team getting into it, and then I want to help them get ready for it, so I started doing it quite a bit. Now, yeah, I mean, I just feel like it's just something I should do. I'm given the opportunity, it's right in front of me, so. It's really not too different, in my opinion. I don't like to chill anyways. I'd like to just keep moving, so it plays into my game just fine. I don't have to really make any adjustments. Like you look at Thor, I don't think he threw any strikes, so if your jiu-jitsu's on point, it's really up to you, you know? If you have a free hand and you can control someone, then do something with it, but just don't get caught up with it, you know? It's all about jiu-jitsu in the end. I think the most popular guard lately has been sitting up, trying to play ashi, hugging the leg and shit, so you're definitely not gonna see that. So you're gonna see people sitting down in the spiral-like position. If I fall down, I'll be in quarter shield. If I stand up, you're in spiral. It's the same position. So you're gonna see a lot more people laying on their side, head on the mat, pummeling, kicking their legs, all that kind of shit. You know?
Don't let him pass so easily. There you go. Now make him. Now he's got to work to unhook him. Bam.
Of course, I'm coming up to go learn from Eddie, and yeah, it's a long drive, but who's got more knowledge than Eddie when it comes to like training UFC fighters? Especially the games I play, like rubber guard. You got to come up and train with Eddie. He's going to show me all the tools I need. I just got to apply them. It's really cool to learn from him because he'll tell you the whole history of that position and everything. All you need to know, you go practice it on your own, but he'll talk about that position and the evolution of it for a whole hour until you know exactly what happened and what time frames, and then you're just completely set for that position. You just got to go take what he took home and work it. Me and my team from 10th Planet Poway, we just carpool up here. The ride's fun. We never stop talking the whole time. We get there, you know, and we get to learn from the best. And then, we go eat, drive home, and do it all over again. Probably meet somewhere at noon the next day. We get home at like probably 3 a.m. Tell him everything I'm trying to do. He can now stuff it, and now I have to evolve my game to cut through and get him again, see if it happens. And then I also work with like my homies like Ben Saunders, fucking full guard. We work our rubber guard together. He shows me striking rubber guard, which is gonna help me now. And I'll be showing him like my truck game, whatever I can, you know? Yeah, me and Gio have been training since white belts together every day, and that friendship's never broke. It's only been stronger every time, you know, every day we train together, so it's a huge blessing, you know. We've found so many other sick ass athletes since then, and we just keep growing. Ever since I was a blue belt, we would come up here like at least once a week for a long time, and we would just work that for a whole week. We didn't even have a coach like me and Gio. We just took the info that Eddie gave us, and we would go work it for like a week until we come back. We were just some 10th Planet gym in North County, and then we turned into 10th Planet San Diego, 10th Planet Oceanside, Spring Valley, Poway, and then we're just fucking destroying ever since.
My name's James Partridge. I'm a black belt representing Brothers Jiu-Jitsu and Triton Fight Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Getting invited to Combat Jiu Jitsu Worlds is probably my biggest accomplishment in Jiu-Jitsu. I'm very excited. My initial thoughts with CJJ training was that it was going to be hard, but now that I'm getting into it, it's just tightened my game up, and I wouldn't necessarily say that it's harder, it's just a different game.
Big jumping takedown there by Perez, now in on those strikes. Cohen really covering up.
He's got to cover.
My thoughts on open palm strikes are that they're a lot safer for the person throwing them. That's kind of the idea behind the gentle art of jiu-jitsu, is that it's gentle on you and you can still hurt the person that you're going with. So instead of punching somebody and breaking your hand, you strike them with your palm, and they're still gonna have to deal with the damage, but you don't. I would say the best guard for CJJ would be any type of clinch guard, so rubber guard, if you were using like over-unders from butterfly guard, anything where you're basically chest to chest or taking away all the space so your opponent can't posture up to strike you. Whenever it comes to using strikes in jiu-jitsu, I would say the purgatory position is kind of still a dangerous spot where guys haven't evolved their game. If a guy's standing above you, you have to be good at getting him down to the mat, or he's just gonna strike from inside your guard standing. I think pure BJJ guys should focus on the purgatory position. Whenever a guy's standing over you in your guard, getting him down into your guard or sweeping and coming on top, because that's where you're gonna deal with most of your trouble. I think whenever it comes to leg locks with strikes, if you're trying to strike while you're being leg locked, you're not fighting the hands. So you could see some guys trying to defend leg locks with strikes and get finished, or you could see some guys going for leg locks and get smashed out. Man, winning the Jiu Jitsu World Featherweight title would be amazing. This type of thing has been a goal of mine for a while. At CJJ Worlds, you can expect me to be pushing the pace, trying to get the submission, and if I can't find the sub, I'm going to strike to open it up. I believe I have what it takes to be a champion strictly because of the people that I'm training with now and the way that they're pushing me to be better every day. There's no easy days here.
My name's Gabriel Austin Daffron. I've been training 5 years. I'm a brown belt out of Kindred Jiu-Jitsu Seattle Workshop. Some of my accomplishments in Jiu-Jitsu have been competing in events such as finishers, sub-only, Ultimate Mat Warriors, and Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds.
Ooh, he gets in deep. That is not great for Benetti. That is a deep, deep entry. He's working on that.
There it is, and he's done! Gabriel Daffron!
I'd have to say, I don't believe there's a best or worst here. It's individuals with skill sets. So either you suck or you're good at those guards. I don't think combat jiu-jitsu will necessarily change your ability to play any which guard. I believe combat jiu-jitsu is a bridge between mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu, where it's a nice in-between, where if you have a guy maybe who's a little bit tentative to hop into a full combat scenario, combat jiu-jitsu would be a nice in-between for that jiu-jitsu practitioner. A guy with that type of skill set can maybe see how much he's getting hit on the ground. So it's a nice bridge to kind of close the gap between the jiu-jitsu here and then mixed martial arts over here, where anything goes. You have in the middle is the combat jiu-jitsu. Combat jiu-jitsu, it's a nice mix-up between boxing, kickboxing, and perhaps mixed martial arts fights, where you can put in a combat jiu-jitsu match into a fight card. A lot of times promoters are a little bit hesitant to throw in a jiu-jitsu match, but if you add in the combat jiu-jitsu, it's another story.
On the shoulder here. Yeah, rotate it. Boom. Now you're just holding your transition of choice of your triangle. Nice. Set the hook. We're on our
Recently, I was injured. I had a minor cleanup towards the end of the year, and I have just been teaching and taking classes with my team at Kindred Jiu-Jitsu. They helped me through this time and my recovery process. My last CJJ event was overall a good experience. It was my first time competing with the best guys in the world, top-ranked black belts such as Nick Pace, Benetti, and Chewy. So it was overall a good run. I'm really excited to be on this next combat jiu-jitsu event. I'm grateful that Eddie called me back, and he always makes the best events, the most exciting events with the overall, best rule sets for grappling. And I'm excited to be a part of it. As I started training combat jiu-jitsu, my initial worry was, of course, getting slapped in the face. As I trained in combat jiu-jitsu, they remained the same. Let's try to avoid a TKO at all costs.
Why do I believe I have what it takes to be the combat jiu-jitsu world champion? It's where I drop the cliche, because I'm Gabriel, Austin, motherfucking Daffron.
My name is Eddie Fyvie. I'm a third-degree black belt under Ricardo Almeida, and I represent Eddie Fyvie Jiu-Jitsu Academy. I'm really excited to be at Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds. I feel like it's something that throughout my career, I've always loved sport jiu-jitsu and MMA, and I feel like this is a happy medium between the two, and it's a lot easier for me to do later in life.
Bring your hand up. Here, tell me go. Pull this.
I love the idea of combat jiu-jitsu. I love how it adds a little bit more reality to the sport. There's certain positions that you can't really get away with space like you can in sport jiu-jitsu. So it's for somebody who's looking to get into jiu-jitsu or looking for a more realistic aspect of the ground, it really showcases that. And the training for combat jiu-jitsu is pretty simple because I've been training for this my whole life, so it's no different.
Nice, I'll catch it.
In combat jiu-jitsu, anything can really work if you believe in it and if it's done with the proper space and principles. But certain things like the open guard, distance is going to really change. Certain half guard positions. The leg entanglements are still realistic, but there are some leg entanglements where people put themselves under dangerous positions and they could really get exposed for it. The best guard for any jiu-jitsu style is closed guard. There's no argument with it. So, and the best guard is the most versatile guard. So, I mean, closed guard is the most controlled, it's the most stable, it's top of the list. But then from there, it really depends on the space that your opponent gives you. The worst guard is anything with an animal name, anything with where your legs are over your head and you're trying to, do something to yourself. Those are the worst guards.
Now sits back looking for a leg.
Once again, you see
I think leg locks have been proven to work in any situation. I think the way people attack them, I think the way people set them up will have to change a little bit. They'll have to be a little bit sharper with their entries and a little bit sharper with their counters when the guy's getting out. Pure jiu-jitsu competitors should be focusing on self-defense jiu-jitsu from the beginning anyway, so maybe restart and start over. Wrestlers, as far as wrestlers are going to find a home for this art of jiu-jitsu, but I don't think it favors wrestlers as it does MMA because the action is a lot more forced in combat jiu-jitsu. The rules are better for submission artists, so they'll be a little bit more disadvantaged, but they're going to be better at controlling top positions, but they can't do as much damage because the open hands they don't represent the punches or elbows at all, so it's a little different. I think in terms of people doing MMA, I think there's a certain aspect of an individual who wants to do MMA, who wants to train striking and train all the elements. It takes a lot more of your life to devote to training in order to do MMA. You're going to give up a decade or 15 years of your life to do it, and you're going to take a lot of head trauma and punishment over the years. So you have to be comfortable with the end game of that too, the end result. And for combat jiu-jitsu, it's, as I said in the beginning, it's a good medium for people to compete in and train without taking too much damage, but still keeping the reality of the art. 6 feet. It's going to take people with more notoriety outside of jiu-jitsu to come in and bring a different audience and a broader audience to it. I think open palm strikes are great. I'm from New York, so for about, when I first started, for the first part of my jiu-jitsu life, for about 8 years, MMA was illegal, so all the events were with open hands. So from watching the early days of Pancrase to training that, to helping guys train for fights, to knocking people out in the street with open hands, it's just open hand strikes work. So it's really no difference, and I think I'm definitely going to be the first guy to, without a doubt, knock somebody out cold with an open hand palm strike in combat jiu-jitsu. For me to come back and do this, it's very important to me. It's important to me as an individual, and I haven't focused on myself as an individual for the past decade. So now I've taken time to myself to really come out and be prepared and showcase my skills. I have what it takes to be the champion because I've been doing this for 2/3 of my life. I've been fighting and doing jiu-jitsu since I was 10 years old. I'm 32 now. I'm from the street to the cage here, training and fighting with the best guys in the world in the cage. So, this is what I do. So this is my life. This is who I am.
My name is Tom Halpin. I'm a Jiu-Jitsu black belt representing Team Fight Sports, and I'm fighting out of Limerick, Ireland. I have a lot of accomplishments throughout my almost 10 years of Jiu-Jitsu now. Probably the biggest ones are I'm the first Irish man to represent my country at the ADCC finals. I'm European ADCC champion, and I'm also former no-gi European champion as well. But I think even though I have a lot of accomplishments in tournaments, probably my biggest accomplishment is just representing the exciting style of jiu-jitsu that I like. And I think all but maybe one of my black belt matches that I've won have been by submission, so hopefully I'll be able to continue that trend into the future as well. I think my game will translate very well actually, because my style is very much based around submissions, both attacking and defending. Then all I need to do is add in the strikes, and I think really what will end up happening is, because my style is so focused on submissions, and sometimes in the point system people are more hesitant to open up and engage, I think the strikes actually help me a lot, both when someone is opening themselves up to attack me, or if they're very defensive, I can use the strikes to open them up. So I'm actually really enjoying translating my style into the combat jiu-jitsu rule set, because activity is what I like, having exciting matches, and I just feel like the rules lend themselves very much to having very active matches. So I'm really looking forward to the challenge. I was very excited to get invited because I've seen some of my teammates in the past, like Wagner Rocha, do very well, and I've done a lot of training with him, and I feel like I have similar kind of game and style that I can, just that I'll be able to apply it as well. I learned a lot from him, because I take a lot of pride in coming from, a small city in Ireland and not that much jiu-jitsu around the place, especially when I was younger. So getting to kind of put, it's like I'm shining a light on the city in Ireland and just showing that our jiu-jitsu is good over here. I feel like we train a lot different than some of the people in Brazil and America. A bit more thoughtful at times, and just we're doing different things over here. So it's really exciting to be kind of leading the way at these big events and getting to represent my country and my friends and my team. Coming from Ireland, when you're younger, we're always training slaps. Your family is slapping you, your friends in schools are slapping you, the girls are slapping you. I've been slapped hundreds of times when I was growing up before I even started jiu-jitsu. So now I get to kind of put my childhood together with my jiu-jitsu career, and I'm really looking forward now to unleashing the ultimate beast of myself. But honestly, I don't think it's going to change the game too much. I already have a very active style, and I think the slaps just make the pace even higher. You can't rest when you're either on top or bottom. So I'm really looking forward to putting all those parts of my game together and slapping the head off a few lads. For this event, It seems like the best lineup for any event so far. You have a lot of exciting grapplers. It's on UFC Fight Pass, which is really popular all around the world. I have people asking me about UFC Fight Pass and the different events that they have on there. People who I know that don't even train. So I think that's a great start. And I think when you combine that then with the high-level athletes and having it in a lot of locations, I think it can really help grow the sport as well. Win, lose or draw, it's always going to be a great show. But this time I'm really expecting that my game will really shine through and I'll be coming for the win. If you're from Ireland, you know we just have that fighting spirit in us. Yeah, sometimes when I'm training and competing, sometimes I'm too relaxed. But I feel like the slaps, in a way, they'll kind of light that fire under me and give me that aggression that I need. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing it now and just representing my country, my friends, and just going out there winning another big event for all the people that believe in me. So yeah, it's going to be good.
So last year I had 2 combat jiu-jitsu events. The first one wasn't, wasn't as expected or how I wanted to go. I mean, that's just competing in general. But it was a little getting used to with the whole slapping with rolling. You know, I've done sport jiu-jitsu and I've also done MMA. So it's kind of hard to find that middle ground. But when I was invited on a 6-hour notice for the second event that I did, I felt like I did a lot better that time. A lot more comfortable, a lot more used to it. Even though I was on 6 hours notice, I was ready to go, and I felt like I gave a way better showing than I did the previous time. I'm always down when I'm able and healthy, on weight especially, I'm always down. I figure, this is the life we chose and might as well make the most of it. So get after it 100%. Martial arts and jiu-jitsu specifically, it's everything, especially to me in the past few years, and when we start out from a white to, and then get promoted all the way to black, you have separate lives away from jiu-jitsu. But I think since I moved to San Diego, moved back in 2013, and had some things going on, during that time, but still always down. Still did, the first few EBIs, and more recently, I just said, I told myself I want to make this a full-time thing. It's my job, it's my life, it's my passion, and I'm living the jiu-jitsu dream. I think if the person has solid jiu-jitsu and, and gets touched up in training a little bit, to keep it realistic, I think if you have solid jiu-jitsu, it's going to show in the event, in the performance. I think if you try to keep it more striking base, that's what you're going for, I think you're going to get caught. So, I think, I believe there's a good, balance in the striking and the grappling, but overall, if you have solid jiu-jitsu, you have a very dominant game where you're dangerous in every position, I think that's going to have the edge ultimately. I mean, not saying that an MMA guy wouldn't, have a good chance. I just feel like this is, it's mostly jiu-jitsu. It's on the ground. So, I think the guy with the best jiu-jitsu is going to, take it like we've seen before. To live the San Diego jiu-jitsu dream, you have to have a side job. And mine for 4 years was working downtown as a security guard. So there were a few security guards that got hired that were, training here. And there were actually 2 of them taking the class tonight. And they're all from different parts of the states. And, and it's been a dream for me to come and train here and to be able to do it full time. And I was finally able to make it happen, in the past year. But with them, they inspired me in the sense that these people decided to drop their regular lives in whatever part of the country they were in, probably a plushy, plushy lifestyle or a good job, and they sacrifice just to come here. And I'm like, man, they've done it. They did it, and they came from wherever else in the States. And I've been here in San Diego. Let's just do it. Let's just pull the trigger and make it happen. Like, these people are making their dream happen. I should as well. I mean, they can make the sacrifice. I'll do it too. Sometimes we settle in positions in jiu-jitsu for far too long, when there needs to be a sense of urgency, you know, and you'll know that sense of urgency once you get hit, and hit hard, you know. So I think it'll make guys move a little bit faster and worry about being in positions that they were once comfortable in and now are in complete danger. So I think once they get touched up, and you know, I think they'll make them move more and move out of regular positions. If you're going to a CJJ event where there are sport jiu-jitsu players and you're an MMA guy, I think you need to up your sport jiu-jitsu training to a T. You know, you'd have to be on point, you know, be, you know, in deep practices like we are here, you know, where he's having to deal with every type of jiu-jitsu situation, I would say, because MMA guys aren't, you know, they don't focus on that too much. And I know, because I fought professionally, and usually when we do our ground and pound, we don't mess around with too much of the sports stuff, you know. It's like not very necessary, you know. I think honestly this is going to be the best meet you'll see, you know, for any EBI event, especially because of, you know, switching over to, you know, Atos for jiu-jitsu. And I just had a different, you know, insight to life in the past, like I would say 6 to 9 months, where I really wanted to dedicate myself to this sport entirely and take any challenge. So I've been healthy, I've been consistent, you know. I think since the last CJJ event, I've had, I don't know, like 5 tournaments, 2 pro fights. I placed at Nogi Worlds, I did Fight to Win. So I've been very consistent since the last combat jiu-jitsu event. So I think we're gonna see the best Geoff reel, you know, to date.
My name is Elias Anderson, and I'm representing Lowell Anderson Jiu-Jitsu. My last experience with combat jiu-jitsu was at the inaugural Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds. I had a very fun match with Denny Prokopos. It was exciting. We put on a great show for the fans. I thought that the overall event was just very fun to be a part of, and I'm glad I got the invite. My brother got to compete on the card as well with me, and we had a blast. It was a really cool experience. You know, right away, I was interested in it. I wanted to be a part of it. I reached out to Eddie Bravo, and I said, man, you gotta get me on there. You gotta get me on. I'll face anybody, anyone, anywhere, anytime. I feel very fortunate to compete at Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds for the second time, this time for the featherweight title. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting on the mats and being a part of a stacked card. And now I've been able to focus more on the hybrid itself, what techniques I needed to implement, and I think that you're going to see an entirely different game, an entirely different beast. You just have to be more aware. I think that with slaps and with strikes mixed in with jiu-jitsu, you have to be more aware of the person in front of you, whether, you know, more aware of the guard you're in and how to defend properly, how to lock someone down, how to control their limbs. You know, so every position has its advantages and disadvantages, but I don't see any real weaknesses. The best guard is obviously to be on someone's back, you know? I think that everyone is going to be hunting for the back. I'm going to be hunting for the back. And it's a position where you can do all the slapping and all the submitting and avoid getting hit, you know? I think that you're going to see a lot of the competitors attack leg locks, even with strikes involved. I think that they're just as dangerous. Someone who is focusing on striking needs to be very aware of their legs. You know, I think with the talent in this bracket, in this tournament, you know, people aren't going to shy away from the leg locks. And, you know, you better be prepared. You better be prepared. We all should be. Obviously, just need to focus on, you know, the self-defense aspect. Where you need to place your hands and how to move your head in order so you don't get hit. You know, if a wrestler's going to come in to combat jiu-jitsu, they might have success, you know, in the standing portion. They might be able to stay on top and slap, stall a little bit, maybe work a pass. But ultimately, you know, you're going to need to acquire the tools for, you know, success via submission. So any wrestler wanting to do combat jiu-jitsu, just focus on increasing your submission arsenal and your overall understanding of the sport. While a lot of people don't want to take a shin to the head, a knee, an elbow, you know, I think combat jiu-jitsu is a really fun hybrid for people who are interested in MMA and people that are already involved in jiu-jitsu. You know, I think it takes a beautiful and dangerous sport that jiu-jitsu is and just adds a fun element to it, something more exciting, something that, you know, people really want to see, something that creates exciting matches, you know, for the fans. Just continue putting, you know, great brackets together, continue stacking the divisions with athletes that are willing to go in there and implement their game, go for the finish, you know, please the crowd. I think that Eddie Bravo and the whole team with EBI are doing a great job promoting the sport and, you know, creating really exciting events for the fans. To take home the Combat Jiu-Jitsu Featherweight title would just be a testament to all the hard work that I've put in on the mats and all of the hard work that my training partners have put into helping me prepare and helping me become a better martial artist. I am a martial artist, you know, in search for perfection. I'll never find it, but I'm always looking to perfect every technique, every move that I do. I obsess over technique, I obsess over training as hard as I can, you know, pushing my body to limits that I didn't even know I could. And so I think that my work ethic and my passion and my drive for martial arts and jiu-jitsu especially is what's going to take me to the title. This event is going to be awesome. I think you have a bunch of talented individuals, hardworking jiu-jitsu competitors, and I think it's going to be fireworks.
The upcoming featherweight bracket will also include familiar names. Returning to the CJJ mat will be New Orleans' Sheridan Moran.
All right, gentlemen, first round. Let's fight. Let's fight. Let's go.
Moran is no stranger to the CJJ stage, and he looked to turn up the heat with his relentless pace against any featherweight that stands in his way. You can expect Pablo Alfonso to bring his striking arsenal to this featherweight tournament.
You know, like these guys are behind this sport.
These guys are going to war now.
Now, with CJJ experience on his side, he and his team at Warrior Camp get ready for a night of high-paced jiu-jitsu.
Ooh, he's flat now. Yeah,
very tapped, nicely done.
10 seconds.
Pablo Alfonso.
When it comes to high-paced action, it's hard to match the output of the Japanese superstar Hideo Tokoro. A CJJ veteran, you can expect Tokoro to return focused and ready, as he's on a mission to capture a Combat Jiu-Jitsu World Championship. Rolling into Los Angeles for his Combat Jiu-Jitsu debut is the iconic Masakazu Imanari.
Beautiful, right there. Beautiful triangle with that.
でもやると痛いし、なんですかね、難しいです。いや、全然見て感じと全然違うです。締めるが一番危ないんじゃないですか。死んじゃうから。まあやればちょっと違うことが分かると思うんですよね。まあこういうちょっとこのパンチの距離とこれの距離違うし、こういうのもないし、裏側で叩くこともないから、これはもうMMAの一環というか、これはこのコンバットエースっていうルールのものでしかないという思うんですよね。まあ似てる部分はあるんですけど、でも違うっす。いいんじゃないですかね。なんか、なんだろう。クラシックな感じ。
Other grapplers who'll be making their CJJ debuts will be Stockton, California's Victor Galdon, representing Cesar Gracie Academy.
Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is a self-defense. So it transitions right over to any time you try to hit me. I believe I'm a real martial artist and I'm going to express myself the right way that night. Hopefully everything turns out the right way and I'm going to put it down.
And 10 Planet Portland product, Sam Hardy. A new year and a new decade have arrived. On Sunday, March 8th, Combat Jiu Jitsu Worlds will take center stage. Live from the historic, iconic, and majestic Orpheum Theater in downtown Los Angeles, 16 elite athletes will face off. Striking, grappling, and fighting for their opportunity to become the first ever CJJ King at 145 pounds. Live and exclusively on UFC Fight Pass, it's Combat Jiu Jitsu Worlds 2020, the Featherweights.